Mary Ellen Humphrey.
Hello.
Our special guest is Charles Freedom Long, and I am Susan Landrigan. We're coming to you from the Innovation Studio at Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield, New York. Today we're going to talk about Charlie's books.
Thank you. Yes.
And Charlie, or what do you prefer to be called?
Charlie.
Charlie, all right.
I love Charlie.
Charles, when did you discover that you were a writer?
Probably very, very early in life, I started writing poetry in grammar school. Awful poetry.
Yeah, we all start out with yeah.
But
It
I
sounds
started.
wonderful to us at the time.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
great stuff.
Yeah,
And I always wanted to be a writer, and I majored in English literature in college,
yeah. Okay.
and then tried to earn a living, and wound up
How'd that go?
not terribly well,
Yeah, yeah. Don't you-
but wound up doing other things to make a living.
So when did you tackle writing these series of books?
When I finally retired, and it was around 2010, after having a couple of conversations with people about what was going on in the country, I decided that I could and should write a book.
Are you saying that you were inspired by the politics that was going on?
Yes. I was, there was this lady from Alaska who was running for vice president and claimed she could see
I think
Russia
I
from
remember
her
her.
house. Do you think you remember her?
I remember that, yeah.
And she had all of us scared, and now we're thinking, those are the good old days.
Yes, I'm like, oh, bring her back,
Well,
please.
we thought that was scared.
We didn't think it could get worse.
No, we
Whoa.
didn't. But no, we were wrong. Gotta admit when you're wrong.
So how did that translate into a story?
Well, what happened was I started hearing voices, and I started seeing people. And I'm a trained psychologist. I'm also a trained medium. And that came second. What happened was, as a psychologist, I know what we do to people who hear voices and see people who might not be there. And
It didn't
so,
bother you at all, huh?
well, I knew enough not to go tell another psychologist,
Okay. I guess.
other than my wife, who's a clinical psychologist. And what I started doing was reading every book on psychology and spiritualism that I could get my hands on.
Okay.
That led me to take a training course in mediumship with someone at Lilydale who has been a tremendous, tremendous resource to me. And I did that for probably 6 years, 5 or 6 years, and was able to finally come to terms with what I was seeing, what I was hearing, who I was talking to,
Mm-hmm.
and what this might mean, and how that didn't mean I was crazy, and how it meant that, in fact, yes, there are people who are alive beyond what we call death, and you can communicate with them, and they can communicate with you.
You can.
You can, all of us can. We all have the natural, innate ability to do this, but we have repressed it for so long that it has to be redeveloped. And I've redeveloped mine.
Well, you know, I know you've written fictional stories, but I find that story fascinating. And have you thought about writing a book about your experience?
I've thought about it and dismissed the idea, and the reason is the same as why I write under a pen name. I write under a pen name because I want the writing to stand by itself. I have no interest in becoming famous or
You know,
having my name spread around.
influencers, I guess is what we call famous people today, but
Right,
there's a lot of scary things that happen if you're in the public eye,
right.
right? And I totally understand. I think I'm going to create and use my pseudonym a lot more now, thank you.
Yes.
So tell us about your series. You have a series of 3,
Right.
And then a fourth one is what, a prologue or something?
Yeah, I have a trilogy.
Trilogy, yeah.
It's all about the 7 worlds. This also takes place in the 7 worlds. But this is the Aidan Ray Good trilogy. And Aidan Ray Good is a lawyer and a medium who communicates with the dead in a futuristic Christian fascist society
Okay.
that would call her a witch and erase her mind if they found out.
Ooh,
And this is her story.
okay.
So she's contacted by an alien being from another world. And talking to dead people is one thing, but talking to dead aliens is maybe another.
Well, you added a real layer there. Oh, my goodness.
So, the dead alien tells her that Earth is in trouble because as far as their society is concerned, we're not paying attention to what the dead are saying. We're not paying enough attention to what we're doing to the planet. We are, in fact, in their opinion, chimpanzees with weapons of mass destruction, and that there are elements in their galaxy that have decided that maybe we're a virus that should be eliminated before we spread.
Oh, my goodness, that's a big what if.
That's a biggie.
A big what if.
So now he tells her, okay, I've come to try to see if you're worth saving.
You know, that story reminds me of Noah and the Ark.
Yes, it
It
should.
does, something told me that.
It should,
Yeah, I
yes.
know, it's like, I'm gonna give humanity one last chance,
Right.
kind of thing.
And
Interesting.
that is the tale. Here's your last chance.
How did I know
And
that?
you now, as an attorney, have to gather a team, and you have to go to the planetary court and defend your planet and tell the Krieg, who are a very warlike species and want to destroy the Earth, why they shouldn't do that and save your planet.
What an interesting premise.
Yes.
Really, it is. I'm odd. And you've created this whole world.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about authors creating worlds.
Okay, well, what happens, I don't know, I do know how some authors do it. I know how I do it. The way I do it, because I'm a medium, is I contact people on the other side who are writers, who come and talk to me,
Are they current writers or past writers?
past writers.
Okay.
They have no bodies, so it's a little hard to write without a body.
Oh, well.
They give you ideas.
So there you
They give me ideas,
So
yes.
would you call them your muse?
Muses,
Okay.
in plural.
Yes.
A lot of them have come down, and some of them I recall more than others. I write about one of them in Witch's Gambit in the intro. It was a very, very thin woman who always came with a cigarette in one hand and a martini in the other. And her criticism was razor sharp and would tell me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, how I should aim a new character and what that character might or might not do, and what the plot twist worked and didn't work.
You had your own private writers group.
I did.
Wow. I wish I had that. Well, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
I recommend writers group to any writer who really wants to write.
Yes.
If you really want to write, then you need to get into a writers group with people that are ruthless.
Well, yes. Yes.
Because
ruthless, but
if
also
they're
supportive.
trying to be kind, they have to be supportive, of course.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to be kind and not say, God, that writing is awful, you just can't, the person's not going to get better.
Mhm.
And the idea behind a writer's group is you want to get better because there's two parts to the writing. One part is the writing, the other part is the reader. If the writing isn't good, the reader doesn't get your message.
Well, we kind of put it this way. There's the writing, and then there's the rewriting.
Yes.
The revision. Because your first draft, I don't care what it is, you got to do some serious revision. And that's where feedback from a writer's group can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
And when you get through all that, then you have kind of the fine tuning. where
Right.
beta readers and other readers can help you with the nuances of the final product. So yeah, a writer's group is essential, but I think a writing community where you talk shop, share. I mean, I've never heard a writer that did. You do. This is very inspiring. I'm gonna go find my crew if I can.
Can you tell me how you come up with your characters, like especially the alien characters?
Okay, well, I have read hundreds of science fiction books, and they have all kinds of interesting aliens in them. And then you use your imagination. Also, I do get inspiration from some of the people I talk to on the other side. And then I use my own creative tools to come up with what a character might be and why. And for example, one of the main characters in these books is a 7-foot tall, half Antal and half kind of cat creature who falls in love with the anti-hero in the book, and that leads to the whole plot coming apart on his part, so that your characters tend to take on a life of their own, and you can start with an idea of what a character might be, and where you get that idea can be anywhere. Anywhere, anything. People you've known contribute to your character because they have interesting quirks. They have interesting habits. And so you say, gee, that's a great habit that I could introduce into it. One person I know in this life was told he couldn't smoke anymore. But he wasn't told he couldn't breathe in smoke from someone else. So we would be working and we'd go outside and have a smoke, and every time I'd blow the smoke away from him, he'd move into it. Okay, and I finally said, what are you doing?
It's not endearing.
No, and that's what he did. And this was one of those people that had been special forces, and, death-defying kind of person. And so I thought that was an endearing kind of attribute, and I put that into one of my characters.
When you started, when you first sat down 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
2014, did you write one book? Did you write, how did you start that?
I wrote one 750-page book, and that turned into the background for the trilogy and the other book, and that's not in that series.
So you were sort of exploring the mapping of this book.
Well, I didn't think I was doing that. I thought I was writing the book.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I was writing several books all at once, and so that I needed to stop and start over again. And I started over again with the original. The one I wrote first was called Dancing with the Dead.
Okay.
And that's about Aidan Good, and the plot to blow up the moon.
Oh,
Okay?
that could have pretty bad ramifications.
Yeah. This is actually the first book in the series. So if
Okay.
someone wants to start the trilogy, I would recommend you do start with this one.
Right?
It's like a courtroom drama in outer space.
Okay.
And from there you could move on to this one, which is a shoot-'em-up spy thriller about someone who wants to blow up the moon but falls in love with exactly the wrong person who happens to be from another planet.
Okay.
And then, starts to wonder about, gee, how can I kill her? I have no problem killing myself,
I
but
think
how
it's
can I kill
important
her?
to say that these books have won awards.
Yes.
That's really impressive. Tell us
Every
about
one
that.
of them has been a finalist for Indie Book of the Year. I am an indie publisher. Every one of them has been a finalist for Indie Book of the Year. Alvar Speer has actually won
This
the
one here.
prize. That one won the gold medal
Wow,
For
I'm impressed. Very
Indie Book
nice.
of the Year.
Very nice. Well, I know I'm eager to read this. It's not the traditional kind of book I would have thought, but it sounds very interesting.
Mhm.
We appreciate you sharing your author wisdom with us and that of those who are behind you.
Well, thank you.
One more
It's
thing
fun.
I want to bring up is you made up a language.
Yes, I made up several languages. There's a lovely little book called A Dictionary of Made Up Languages, and it's available on Amazon and in bookstores, and you can find it if you're a writer and you want to write a story about talking with cats, and that the cats perhaps have their own language.
Yes,
This
you do.
will give you the instruction on how can you create a language of that species that people will actually believe.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
It's not that hard.
Well, let's see.
Well, I think we're running out of time. So thank you for spending time with us today. We value your feedback, and we'll see you next week.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay.